Salvete omnes, and welcome to this video lesson on declining Latin nouns. We're looking at declining second masculine nouns. So I have gone to Coniunctor Nominum here. If you go to my base website, ll.50webs.com, and you go to educational apps, you can then head to Coniunctor Nominum. And this is my site for declining Latin nouns, and also you can throw adjectives with them if you wish. So let's talk about second declension masculine nouns. Servus, servi, and notice I'm going to use my little button here to make the long I. It makes it easier than trying to find the keystrokes or do the long press or whatever you might have on different devices. So there you go. For a Latin noun heading or lemma entry, the sort of the beginning that you would find in a dictionary entry for a Latin noun, you want the nominative singular form, which is servus here. Then often there's a comma, and then you put servi here. That's the genitive singular form. Now, you might be used to English entries where you have singular and then plural. That's not how Latin entries are formed. So you have the nominative, sort of the name form of the noun, servus. That would be used for the subject of a sentence. Then you have the genitive form, which is used for possession, and sometimes it's translated with of. So servi would be the slaves, apostrophe s, or of a slave, of the slave, to translate that. So again, servus is nominative singular, servi is genitive singular, and then the M period means masculine, because this word is a masculine noun. Most us type and R type second declension nouns are masculine. There are just a couple of exceptions to that. Words like humus, meaning ground, and domus, meaning house. So here we go. Servus, servi, masculine, and then I'm going to click the decline now. So what is a declension? When we decline a noun, we are making a chart of the endings, and we can talk about a second declension noun, which is a type of noun that has second declension, in this case second declension masculine endings, which follow the pattern us, e, o, o, and then in the vocative short e, if it's an us type, and then in the plural goes e, orum, is, os, is, and then the vocative plural repeats the nominative and has an e. So us, e, o, o, and then e, orum, is, os, is. All right, and then the vocative rule, as a reminder, tells us that the nominative and vocative are usually the same. The exception to that, where the vocative is not the same as the nominative, is in the singular for second masculine nouns, which is what we're talking about, so we need to remind ourselves of this exception. For a second masculine noun that ends in us, like servus, you go to which is a short e in the vocative singular. And let me just give you another example here. Let's do fluvius. Fluvius is another second masculine. So fluvius, flui, all right? And sometimes you'll see that written with just one I. In different periods of Latin, it was written with one I or with two. But I like to do the two I's for completion. So fluvius, flui. Now I'm going to decline this. Now again, we've got us, e, o, o, but you'll notice that the vocative singular, instead of having flu, we, or something like that with a short e on the end, it's gone to a single long I. So again, the exception to the rules about vocative being same as nominative are us words like servus that go to or serve in the vocative singular, and eus words like fluvius, that is ius ending nouns like fluvius, which go to e, a single long I in the vocative singular. So these are the two exceptional types of nouns, the two noun types that will have a different vocative singular. All right, enough about that. So let's go back to the basic pattern now to make sure that we understand what we're doing when we decline a second declension noun. So again, the basic pattern is to repeat the endings us, e, o, o, and then in the plural, e, orum, is, os, is. Now when I chant endings for Latin nouns, I typically leave those vocatives out because we just deal with that with the vocative rule, right? So it normally repeats the nominative except for here, ius goes to e, and in the us words like servus, the us goes to e. Alright, so one more time, us, e, o, that's the singular, and then the plural, e, orum, is, os, is. Now, let's just throw in a different noun here. So fluvius meant river, servus is slave. Let's do hortus, meaning garden. That's another us type word, kind of like servus, so it should follow the same pattern. So here we go. We've got us. We're going to look at the singular endings. Us, e, o, o. And then notice the vocative follows the rule, and the us changes to e. And then in the plural, the endings go e, orum, is, os, is. And the vocative, of course, repeats the nominative, so it's horti again. Good. And let's do another one of the ius type. So Filius is a common Latin word for son. So we'll do that. Oops. Fili. And I'm going to do the two I's again. I like that. Again, some periods of Latin that was written as just one I, so fili instead of filii. But I like the two I's, and I encourage people to do that for practice. But you should know that you might occasionally see it the other way. So Filius, filii, masculine. I hit decline now. There we go. And then let's go down through the singular endings. It goes us, e, o, o. And then notice the vocative following that exceptional rule. The ius goes to e, so a single long I. Then we go to the plural side, and the endings go e, orum, is, os, is. And again, the vocative following the rule repeats the nominative, and again has filii. Now, all of that said, there is also a subtype for second masculine nouns that ends with r. So there are two variations on the r type. Let me give you the simplest one right now. Puer, pueri. Another example like this would be weir, weary, masculine. So these type of nouns, you get the nominative, say puer or weir, whatever it might be, and then the genitive singular will just add a long I to that, and that's where you get your stem from always. You always get your stem from the genitive singular, right? And then you get masculine, period, okay, because these are almost always masculine. That's all fine and dandy. Let's go ahead and decline this and see what it looks like. So in this time, instead of starting with us, we just start with a r. So a lot of times we talk about us or r, e, o, o, when we're talking about second masculine endings, because some of the nouns end with us and some nouns end with r in second masculine. So here we have puer, pueri, puero, puerum, puero. So again, the endings are essentially r and then e, o, o. And then notice the vocative follows the vocative rule, so it's exactly the same as the nominative. Then I go to the plural side, and the endings again are e, orum, is, os, is. And then again, the vocative rule, vocative repeats. So really the only place that this is different from the ones we looked at before, servus and hortus and filius and fluvius, the only place it's different is in the nominative and vocative singulars, where it ends in r. Everywhere else we're adding the same kind of endings, so it looks exactly the same on the end. Now, I mentioned a minute ago that you always get the stem from the genitive form. It's important to remember that because in second declension, you sometimes get nouns like ager, agri. And here's where that rule about using the genitive for the stem comes in. I'm going to decline it now. Ager, agri, masculine. This word means filled. Now, if you look at the declension chart, again, the nominative ends with an R, just like we had with puer. And in the genitive, we go E, and then we go O, O down the chart. So all the endings are the same. But hopefully you can see the big important thing here, and that is that there is no E in the genitive, dative, accusative, and ablative singular, and there is no E anywhere in the plural. The E that you get in ager, the nominative and vocative form in the singular, just disappears when you get to the genitive case. And like I said, you use the genitive case to get the stem for the noun. So technically speaking, what do you add the endings to? You add the endings, which are like the us, e, o, o. Those endings, you add those technically to the stem from the genitive, which you get by taking the genitive ending off. Now, auger, augury, masculine. Augury is the genitive. The genitive ending is E, which is the long I. So I take off the long I, and then I get AGR, and that's what I add all the endings to. So the dative, it's not augero, it's agro. The accusative, not augerum, but agrum. Ablative, not augero, but agro. Vocative has to repeat the nominative, so that's why it has the E again. And then I go to the plural. All of those just add the endings to AGR, right? So this is important because you could really mess up a lot of your declension endings, or rather a lot of your declension forms, let's say, by adding the endings to the wrong stem. If you were adding all the endings to auger instead of to AGR, you'd mess it up, right? So be careful that you're going to add the endings other than the nominative and vocative, right? You're going to add the endings to that genitive stem. All right, awesome. And I hope that made sense to you and you learned a few things about second declension. Volete!